For 10 years, nobody dared speak to the Mafia boss's father, until one nurse walked into the room and said a single Italian word that made the entire family stop and listen. Anthony Romano had become a man surrounded by silence. The world knew him as the father of one of the most powerful families in the city, a man whose name carried respect and distance. People visited him because they had responsibilities, not because they wanted to know him. They spoke carefully, stayed formal, and avoided personal conversations. To most people, Anthony was not just an elderly man. He was a symbol of a powerful past that they did not fully understand. But behind the quiet expression and reserved personality was a father who missed the simple moments of connection. His son, Vincent Romano, had built his entire life around protecting his family. As the Mafia boss, Vincent was known for his discipline, his careful decisions, and his ability to handle difficult situations. Yet there was one thing he could not solve. He could not find a way to bring his father out of the emotional distance that had grown over the years. Vincent hired experienced caregivers, trusted professionals, and people recommended by those around him. But none of them could reach Anthony. They treated him with respect, but they never truly saw him. Then Sophia Bennett arrived. Sophia was a nurse who had spent years caring for people from all different backgrounds. She was not impressed by wealth, reputation, or power. When she entered Anthony's home, she did not see the name attached to the family. She saw an elderly man who deserved kindness and attention. The first day she met Anthony, everyone expected her to be nervous. They expected her to keep conversations short and follow the same careful distance as everyone else. Instead, Sophia simply smiled, greeted him warmly, and asked about his day. It was a small gesture, but it immediately felt different. Anthony looked at her with surprise because nobody had spoken to him that way in a long time. Sophia did not know the stories people whispered about the Romano family. She did not know the fear surrounding their reputation. She only knew that every person deserved to be treated with dignity. Over the next few days, Vincent noticed something unusual. His father, who rarely showed interest in conversations, began responding to Sophia. He listened when she spoke. He answered her questions. He even showed small moments of emotion that Vincent had not seen in years. Vincent could not understand how someone who had just arrived could create a connection that others had failed to build. There was something different about Sophia. She was not trying to gain influence. She was not looking for approval. She was simply being genuine. Then one afternoon, while Sophia was caring for Anthony, she quietly said one Italian word that changed everything. Anthony looked up immediately, as if a forgotten memory had suddenly returned. Vincent saw the reaction and realized there was a story behind those words. A story that his father had never shared. And for the first time in years, the Mafia boss wondered if this nurse was not just helping his father heal, but uncovering a secret that had been hidden for decades. After that unexpected moment, Vincent Romano could not stop thinking about the reaction he had witnessed. His father, a man who rarely showed surprise or emotion, had looked at Sophia Bennett as if she had opened a door to a memory that had been locked away for years. Vincent had spent most of his life trying to understand his father, but he had never seen anyone create that kind of connection so quickly. The next morning, Vincent watched Sophia carefully from a distance. He wanted to understand who she was and why his father trusted her. Many people had entered the Romano family home with different intentions, but Sophia seemed different from everyone else. She did not ask questions about the family's influence. She did not try to impress anyone. She simply focused on Anthony and treated him with the same patience she gave every person she cared for. Sophia spent her days listening to Anthony's stories, even when those stories were small memories that others considered unimportant. She asked about his favorite traditions, the places he remembered from his childhood, and the moments that had shaped him. For the first time in a long while, Anthony seemed comfortable sharing pieces of himself. Vincent noticed the change immediately. His father was not suddenly a different person. He was still quiet and thoughtful, but there was a warmth that had been missing for years. Vincent began wondering what Sophia understood that everyone else had missed. One afternoon, Vincent approached Sophia and asked about the Italian word she had spoken. He expected a simple answer, but Sophia paused before responding. She explained that she had heard the word many times from her grandmother when she was younger. It was a word connected to family, memories, and the idea that some bonds remained meaningful even after many years had passed. Vincent listened carefully because he knew there was something about that word that affected his father deeply. Sophia did not know why Anthony reacted that way. She had only said it because she noticed a small detail in one of his old belongings and remembered the expression her grandmother used in similar situations. To her, it was just a moment of kindness. To Anthony, it seemed to represent something much greater. Vincent realized that Sophia was not trying to uncover secrets. She was simply paying attention in a way others never did. She noticed the emotions behind people's actions. She understood that a person's silence often carried a story. This was something Vincent had forgotten while focusing on responsibilities and protecting his family. He had spent years making decisions based on caution, but Sophia approached people with understanding. As days passed, Vincent continued observing her. He noticed how she treated the household staff, how she spoke with Anthony, and how she remained calm despite being surrounded by a powerful family. She was not intimidated by their reputation because she never judged people by their names. She judged them by their humanity. That quality made Vincent curious. He began to wonder about Sophia's own story. What experiences had shaped her into someone who could connect with a person everyone else avoided? And why did one simple Italian word create a reaction that suggested a connection between Sophia and his father's forgotten past? Vincent knew there were answers waiting to be discovered, but he also knew that finding those answers might reveal a part of his father's life that had remained hidden from him for decades. Vincent Romano had spent years believing that his family history was something he already understood. He knew the stories people shared about his father, the traditions they followed, and the responsibilities that came with the Romano name. But after watching Sophia Bennett connect with Anthony in a way nobody else could, Vincent began questioning how much he truly knew. There were parts of his father's past that had never been explained, and the mysterious Italian word Sophia had spoken seemed to be connected to those missing pieces. One evening, Vincent found his father looking through an old collection of photographs. Anthony rarely spent time looking back at the past, so the moment immediately caught Vincent's attention. He noticed a small change in his father's expression, a mixture of warmth and reflection that he had not seen in years. Vincent asked about the photographs, but Anthony remained quiet for a moment before saying that some memories were difficult to explain. Before Vincent could ask more, Sophia entered the room and greeted Anthony with her usual kindness. The atmosphere changed instantly. Anthony smiled slightly, and Vincent noticed that his father seemed more comfortable when Sophia was nearby. It made him realize that she had become someone important, even though she had only been part of their lives for a short time. Sophia continued caring for Anthony without trying to uncover his secrets. She never pressured him to talk about the past. She simply created a space where he felt respected enough to share when he was ready. That patience was something Vincent admired because it was completely different from his own approach. Vincent was used to solving problems quickly. Sophia understood that some things could only be healed with time. As Vincent learned more about Sophia, he discovered that her connection to Italian culture came from her grandmother, who had immigrated to the United States many years earlier. Sophia grew up listening to stories about family traditions, old expressions, and the importance of remembering where people came from. She explained that the Italian word she used was something her grandmother said whenever someone needed to be reminded that they were not alone. Vincent realized that this was why Anthony reacted so strongly. The word was not just a phrase. It represented a feeling he had forgotten. It reminded him of a time when family connections felt simpler and more genuine. For Vincent, this discovery was unexpected. He had spent years seeing his father as a powerful figure who needed to be protected. He had forgotten that Anthony was also a person with memories, emotions, and experiences that shaped him. Sophia helped him see the difference. She did not change Anthony by forcing him to become someone else. She simply reminded him of a part of himself that had been hidden beneath years of silence. Vincent started respecting Sophia in a way he had not expected. At first, he saw her as a nurse hired to help his father. Now he saw someone who understood people better than many individuals with years of experience around his family. But one question remained in his mind. Why did this simple connection feel so familiar to his father? And what other memories had Anthony kept hidden from everyone, including his own son? Vincent knew that the answers were closer than he realized, and Sophia might be the key to discovering the truth behind his father's forgotten past. Vincent Romano had always believed that his father's silence was a choice. He thought Anthony had simply become a man who preferred distance, someone who no longer wanted to share the thoughts and memories that once shaped him. But after seeing the connection between Anthony and Sophia Bennett, Vincent began to understand that silence was not always about refusing to speak. Sometimes, it was about waiting for the right person to listen. The discovery changed the way Vincent viewed his father. For years, he had focused on protecting the Romano family name and maintaining the image of strength that everyone expected from him. He had forgotten that behind every reputation was a person with emotions, memories, and unfinished stories. Sophia reminded him of that without ever trying to teach him. She simply showed him through the way she cared for Anthony. One morning, Sophia found Anthony holding an old letter that had been carefully preserved for many years. She noticed the expression on his face and asked if he wanted to talk about it. Instead of avoiding the subject, Anthony quietly shared a memory from his younger years. He explained that the letter came from someone who had once been very important to his family, someone who believed that kindness and loyalty mattered more than status. Sophia listened carefully, never interrupting. Vincent watched from nearby and realized that this was the first time his father had willingly shared a personal memory in a long time. Anthony explained that the Italian word Sophia had spoken reminded him of a promise made many years ago. It was a promise about remembering people, even when life became complicated and circumstances changed. To Anthony, that word represented a connection between the past and the present. It reminded him of values he thought had disappeared over time. Vincent was surprised by how emotional the conversation became. He had expected to discover a complicated family secret, but instead, he found something much more meaningful. He discovered that his father had been carrying memories that he never felt comfortable sharing. The problem was never that Anthony did not want connection. The problem was that nobody had taken the time to understand what he needed. Sophia changed that simply by being patient. She did not treat Anthony like a powerful family figure. She treated him like a person whose story mattered. As Vincent continued learning about Sophia, his respect for her grew stronger. He discovered that she had always been someone who looked beyond appearances. During her years as a nurse, she had learned that every person carried experiences others could not see. That belief guided the way she treated everyone, whether they were wealthy, famous, or completely unknown. Vincent began questioning his own habits. He realized that he often judged situations based on information available on the surface. Sophia looked deeper. She searched for understanding before making conclusions. That difference was becoming impossible for him to ignore. However, Vincent still wondered about one thing. Why did his father react so strongly to Sophia's words? Why did a simple Italian expression create a connection that felt almost impossible to explain? There was still a missing piece of the story. And as Vincent looked at the old letter in his father's hands, he knew that the answer was hidden somewhere in the past. A past that was finally beginning to reveal itself. Vincent Romano had spent years believing that understanding his father meant knowing his history, his decisions, and the responsibilities that came with the Romano family name. But as more pieces of Anthony Romano's past began to appear, Vincent realized that he had only known the version of his father that everyone else saw. He knew the respected figure, the man people approached carefully, and the father who rarely showed emotion. He did not know the person behind all of those layers. Sophia Bennett was changing that, not by searching for answers, but by creating a place where Anthony felt comfortable enough to share them. Over the following days, Vincent noticed small changes in his father's routine. Anthony began spending more time outside his study. He started sharing memories during conversations instead of keeping them locked away. These were simple moments that most people would overlook, but Vincent understood their importance. His father was allowing himself to reconnect with parts of his life that had been forgotten. Sophia continued to care for Anthony with the same patience and respect she had shown from the beginning. She never acted as though she had discovered something extraordinary. To her, she was simply doing what she believed was right. That humility impressed Vincent because he was surrounded by people who often wanted recognition for every achievement. Sophia seemed different because she focused on the impact of her actions rather than receiving attention for them. One afternoon, Anthony asked Sophia about her grandmother and the Italian expressions she had learned growing up. Sophia smiled and shared stories about family dinners, old traditions, and the lessons her grandmother passed down. She explained that certain words carried emotions beyond their direct meaning. They represented memories, relationships, and moments that stayed with people throughout their lives. Vincent listened carefully because he realized that this was the connection he had been trying to understand. Sophia did not know a secret about his father. She simply understood something important about people. She understood that memories could be powerful because they reminded someone of who they were before the world changed them. Later that evening, Vincent had a private conversation with Anthony. For the first time, he asked his father questions without expecting immediate answers. He asked about the past, about the people who influenced him, and about the moments that shaped his beliefs. Anthony noticed the difference in his son. Vincent was no longer asking as a leader trying to solve a problem. He was asking as a son who genuinely wanted to understand. Anthony admitted that he had spent many years believing that keeping certain memories private would protect his family. He never wanted Vincent to carry the weight of old emotions or unfinished stories. But he also realized that silence had created distance between them. Sophia's presence reminded him that sharing memories was not a sign of weakness. It was a way of keeping important connections alive. Vincent left that conversation with a new perspective. He understood why Sophia had made such an impact on his father. She did not bring change through power or influence. She brought change through compassion and understanding. The more Vincent learned about her, the more he realized that she possessed something rare. She could see the person beneath the reputation. And for someone like Anthony Romano, that was something he had not experienced in many years. Yet Vincent still felt that there was another part of the story waiting to be discovered. The old letter, the Italian word, and his father's reaction all pointed toward a connection that reached further back than he imagined. Soon, he would learn why Sophia's simple words had awakened a memory his father had carried for decades. Vincent Romano had always believed that his role as the head of the family was to protect the people around him from uncertainty. He made decisions quickly, carried responsibilities quietly, and rarely allowed himself to show doubt. But after everything he had witnessed with his father and Sophia Bennett, Vincent began to understand that protection was not always about controlling every situation. Sometimes, it was about giving people the space to heal and reconnect. The changes in Anthony Romano were impossible to ignore. The man who once spent most of his days surrounded by silence was now sharing stories, remembering moments from his younger years, and allowing others to see parts of himself that had been hidden for a long time. Vincent knew Sophia was the reason those changes happened, but he also knew she never tried to take credit for them. She simply created an environment where Anthony felt comfortable being himself again. One morning, Vincent found Sophia organizing some of Anthony's old belongings. Among them was a small wooden box containing photographs, handwritten notes, and family keepsakes that had been carefully preserved over the years. Sophia explained that Anthony had asked her to help arrange them because he wanted to remember the stories behind each item. Vincent was surprised because his father had never shown interest in sharing those memories before. As they looked through the photographs, Anthony began explaining details about his past that Vincent had never heard. He talked about family traditions, meaningful friendships, and the lessons he learned from the people who influenced him. For Vincent, these stories revealed a completely different side of his father. He realized that Anthony had not become distant because he stopped caring. He became distant because he carried many memories that he did not know how to share. Sophia understood that without needing to be told. That was what made her different. She listened to what people said, but she also noticed what they left unsaid. Vincent started seeing Sophia in a new way. At first, he had considered her simply a professional caregiver who happened to connect with his father. Now he understood that her strength came from something much deeper. She had emotional intelligence, patience, and a natural ability to make people feel valued. These qualities were not something that could be taught easily. They came from the way she viewed the world. Later that day, Vincent asked Sophia why she treated his father differently from everyone else. Sophia answered honestly. She said that she never believed a person's reputation should decide how they deserved to be treated. Every person had experiences, memories, and emotions that others could not see. Vincent thought about those words for a long time. He realized that he had spent years protecting his family name, but had forgotten to understand the people inside that family. Sophia had shown him that strength was not only found in authority. It was also found in compassion. Meanwhile, Anthony continued becoming more open. He shared more memories and even laughed during conversations, something Vincent had rarely seen in recent years. The connection between father and son slowly began to rebuild, and Sophia quietly became the bridge that brought them closer. But as Vincent looked deeper into his father's old belongings, he discovered something that made him pause. Hidden among the photographs was a name he recognized but never expected to see connected to Sophia's family. Suddenly, the Italian word that started everything seemed less like a coincidence and more like a clue. Vincent realized that Sophia's arrival in their lives might not have been accidental. There was a forgotten connection between two families, and the truth was finally beginning to emerge. Vincent Romano could not stop thinking about the name he had discovered among his father's old belongings. It was a name connected to Sophia Bennett's family, and the discovery changed the way he viewed everything that had happened. What once seemed like a simple coincidence now appeared to be a connection that had been waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Vincent knew he needed answers, but he also understood that the truth belonged to more than just him. It belonged to his father, and Sophia as well. Instead of confronting Sophia immediately, Vincent decided to learn more about the history behind the connection. He carefully looked through the old photographs and letters with Anthony's permission. As they reviewed the memories together, Anthony became quiet when he saw a particular photograph from many years ago. It showed a gathering of people from a time when family relationships were built through trust, friendship, and shared experiences rather than reputation or influence. Anthony explained that one of the people in the photograph had been someone who helped his family during a difficult period of transition. That person was Sophia's grandmother. Vincent listened carefully as his father described a woman known for her kindness and wisdom. She had always believed that people should be remembered for how they treated others, not for what they owned or what others thought about them. Anthony explained that he had never forgotten that lesson, even though life had taken him in a different direction. Sophia was surprised when Anthony shared the connection. She had grown up hearing stories from her grandmother, but she never knew those stories were connected to the Romano family. She always thought they were simply memories passed down through generations. Now she understood that the Italian expression she had spoken was something her grandmother had carried from that relationship. It was a reminder of loyalty, gratitude, and the importance of remembering the people who showed kindness when it mattered most. Vincent watched the conversation between Sophia and his father and realized something important. The connection between them was not based on family names, wealth, or influence. It was based on values that had survived through time. Sophia had brought back a part of Anthony's life that he thought was lost forever. Anthony then shared something he had never told Vincent before. Years earlier, he had promised Sophia's grandmother that he would always remember the kindness she showed his family. He kept that promise quietly, even when many years passed and circumstances changed. The Italian word Sophia spoke reminded him of that promise, and the person who inspired it. Vincent finally understood why his father reacted so strongly. It was not just a word. It was a memory filled with meaning. It represented a connection between two families that had been separated by time, but never completely forgotten. As Vincent looked at Sophia, he realized she had entered their lives without knowing the importance of what she carried. She had not come searching for a place in the Romano family. She had not tried to gain attention or recognition. She had simply been herself, and that honesty had uncovered something everyone else had missed. Vincent felt a new level of respect for her. He had spent years believing that loyalty was proven through actions of strength and protection. Sophia showed him that loyalty could also be found in compassion, understanding, and remembering the people who mattered. The truth behind the Italian word was finally revealed, but Vincent knew the discovery had created something even more meaningful. It had changed the way he saw his father, his family, and the woman who had brought warmth back into their home. Vincent Romano had spent years believing that the strength of his family came from the reputation they had built. He thought respect was created through responsibility, discipline, and the ability to handle every challenge without hesitation. But after discovering the connection between Sophia Bennett's family and his father's past, Vincent began to understand that the strongest foundations were not always built through influence. Sometimes, they were built through kindness, trust, and the memories people carried with them. The atmosphere inside the Romano home slowly changed. Anthony Romano, once known for his quiet distance, began sharing more moments with those around him. He talked about his childhood, the people who shaped his beliefs, and the lessons he learned long before the family became known for its power and influence. Vincent noticed that his father seemed lighter, as if a part of him that had been hidden for years was finally returning. Sophia remained humble throughout everything. She never acted as though she had solved a mystery or changed an entire family. She believed she had only done what any caring person would do. That attitude impressed Vincent more than anything else. He had met many people who wanted recognition for their achievements, but Sophia never looked for attention. She cared because she genuinely believed every person deserved compassion. As Vincent spent more time with Sophia, he began noticing qualities that he had previously overlooked. She was observant, patient, and thoughtful. She understood people in a way that surprised him. She did not simply listen to words. She noticed emotions, memories, and the small details that revealed what someone truly needed. Vincent realized that these qualities were exactly what helped her reach his father. One evening, Vincent and Sophia had a conversation about everything that had happened. He thanked her for the difference she had made in Anthony's life. Sophia smiled and explained that Anthony had changed because he was ready to reconnect with those memories. She did not create the change. She simply gave him a place where he felt comfortable enough to begin. Vincent appreciated that answer because it reflected who Sophia was. She never placed herself above others. She never believed she was more important than the people she helped. She simply understood the value of being present when someone needed understanding. Meanwhile, Anthony continued rebuilding his relationship with Vincent. The two of them began having conversations they had avoided for years. They talked about memories, regrets, and the moments that shaped their family. Vincent realized that he had spent so much time trying to become the perfect protector that he forgot to simply be a son. Sophia's presence reminded him that family connections required more than responsibility. They required openness. As the weeks passed, Vincent no longer saw Sophia as just a nurse who had entered their home by chance. He saw her as someone who had brought an important lesson back into his life. She showed him that people should not be judged by their positions or appearances. They should be understood through their actions and their character. The connection between Sophia and Anthony had revealed a forgotten piece of history, but it had also created a new beginning. Vincent knew that his family would never look at relationships the same way again. The woman who arrived as a caregiver had become someone who helped heal old distances and brought a deeper sense of understanding into the Romano family. Yet Vincent also knew that one final chapter remained. The truth had been revealed, but the future of this unexpected connection was only beginning to take shape. Vincent Romano had spent most of his life believing that strength meant carrying every responsibility alone. He thought a powerful family needed someone who never showed uncertainty, someone who always had the right answer and never allowed emotions to influence important decisions. But the journey with his father and Sophia Bennett had changed the way he understood strength. He learned that true strength was not only about protecting people. It was also about understanding them, listening to them, and allowing meaningful connections to grow. Anthony Romano was no longer the distant figure everyone remembered. The walls that had surrounded him for years slowly disappeared, replaced by conversations, memories, and moments of genuine happiness. Vincent watched his father reconnect with the world around him, and he realized how much time they had lost because they both struggled to express what they truly felt. Sophia never claimed responsibility for bringing them closer. She always reminded Vincent that Anthony had found the courage himself. She had simply been there when he needed someone willing to listen. That humility was one of the reasons Vincent respected her so deeply. She never entered their home searching for importance. She never expected anything in return. She simply followed her belief that every person deserved kindness and understanding. As the connection between the Romano family and Sophia's family became fully understood, Anthony finally shared the meaning behind the Italian word that had started everything. He explained that it represented a promise made between two families many years ago, a promise to remember kindness even when life changed. The word carried the memory of people who believed that compassion could create bonds stronger than circumstances. Vincent realized that his father had not been holding on to the past because he was unable to move forward. He had been protecting a memory that represented the best parts of who he was. Sophia had unknowingly brought that memory back into his life. The discovery changed Vincent's perspective completely. He no longer measured people by their positions, backgrounds, or the expectations of others. He began looking deeper, just as Sophia always had. She showed him that every person carried a story, and sometimes the most important stories belonged to those who were overlooked. Over time, Sophia became a trusted part of the Romano family. not because of her connection to the past, but because of the person she was in the present. She earned their respect through patience, honesty, and the way she treated everyone around her. Anthony saw her as a reminder of old values that had never truly disappeared. Vincent saw her as someone who changed the way he viewed the world. The woman who entered their home as a nurse became the person who helped restore a father and son relationship that had been quietly waiting for healing. She proved that influence did not always come from power. Sometimes, the greatest impact came from compassion and the willingness to see people as they truly were. Vincent understood that the most important lessons in life were often discovered in unexpected moments. A single word, spoken with sincerity, had revealed a forgotten connection and transformed an entire family. From that day forward, the Romano family carried a new understanding with them. They knew that respect was not created by fear or reputation. It was created by trust, kindness, and the memories people choose to honor. And for Vincent, the greatest discovery was not the secret hidden in the past. It was the realization that the right person could change everything simply by reminding others what truly mattered.